Hello there everybody out in YouTube. It's time for another vinyl and CD update. Even though I haven't had the real time yet to visit those some of those places that I'm usually visit once a month to dig for records. But I also have been having a great month overall without those places. So even though it isn't as much as I was hoping for, I'm very satisfied because it has been a lot of the summer season. It means that it's starting to come these garden flea markets, and people are having flea markets out in the on their gardens and so on, and I managed to be to some of those places and managed to find records at home at people. so it has been a pretty good month anyway, but I guess it might be even more if I had the time to visit my regular places also. But it is 4th of June, and I feel like I don't feels wrong to do a vinyl seed update for May if we're in the middle of June. So I take what I have for right now and let the rest go to the June update. Starting with singles, which actually is pretty good stack. CD single 1, Marie Fredriksson, Fame from Roxette, with a song from a movie released in 2008, Där du andas, Where You Breathe, and this is from a movie called Arn. It's a movie about a knight in 11th or 12th century. It's a really good movie. I've seen it and it's really good, and this is also Marie Fredriksson, not to forget. So this one is interesting, even though I was hoping for a second track also, but it's only one track. A whole lot of vinyl singles, as I said. Prince and Kiss, that I actually didn't have. I don't think it's Prince's best song because maybe because I feel it a little bit overplayed through the years, but it's it's Prince and it's a good song nonetheless. So definitely need to have it. Television music always attracts me, and this I bought merely for the memory, not because I saw. I follow this television series, but because I have still some memories for it. This is a French singer, Herbert Leonard, or French Herbert Leonard, maybe. And the song is called Puissant et Glorieux. My French sucks. This is a theme from a television series called Chateau Vallon, which in Sweden was called Makt och rikedom, power and rich, and it was one of these series that was maybe connected. It was a series that was perfect for its time in the mid 80s, with like Lace series or like Jackie Collins series and so on. I saw it once, and I saw it with my grandmother when I was spending a summer at her in 1986. She liked this series. I saw it at there. And I remember the theme was a little 80s light popish, and they was flagging in the newspaper that it would be some semi-nudity and so on, and never saw anything of that, but it was fun to have as a memory of my grandmother. More Swedish, my favorite singer Peter Lemark, and maybe his biggest hits, sången de spelar när filmen är slut. I have all Peter Lemark's studio albums, but I have far from all singles. So this is very welcomed. Going to jazz. This is Count Basie from the Atomic album. Not all that fond of Count Basie and his Neil Hefti arrangements, and I've heard some from Atomic, and I think it's so. But it contained a song that I felt like I wanted to have, Whirly Bird. That song I really like, so I bought this EP merely for that. Also here is Flight of the Foo Birds, Kid from Red Bank, and Duet. Duke Ellington, Duke at Newport. As you've seen, I have the entire Newport concert on CD, these are containing songs that I'm kind of tired of. Take the A Train, Sophisticated Lady, same Duke Ellington songs. I Got It Bad and That Ain't Good, and then Jeep's Blues. But it is from a concert that I really like, so I felt like why not have it on the EP also. It's great to have since the concert itself and the Newport Suite is really great. Human League and Louise, The World Tonight at the B-side. This is from 1984. I have Belgian group Telex, who is a synth pop band from the 80s that became okay big, but not that big. They started their career in Eurovision Song Contest in 1980, and then they did a song that was somewhat of a parody of the entire Eurovision Song Contest, called Eurovision, or Eurovision. Winded up in final place in 1980. More jazz. I have a EP here with Jack Teagarden, Jazz Makers, in memoriam Jack Teagarden, 1905 to 1964. Home, Too Marvelous for Birds, Somebody Loves Me, and You Brought a New Kind of Love to Me, featuring Coleman Hawkins. I felt like if Jack Teagarden is a musician that you never know. He can be swing sometime, he can be Dixieland, which I'm not all that fond of. But I felt like if it is 40s recording with Coleman Hawkins and Billy Taylor, gotta be can't be all that much Dixieland then. This is interesting. It is a band called 4 Freshmen and 5 Trombones. This is part 1 of several in the same single series, I guess. This containing several names I never heard of. Frank Rosolini, Harry Betts, Milt Bernard, George Roberts, trombonists that I never heard of. Tommy Peterson I heard of. He played in my favorite band leader in Boyd Raeburn's band. And we have also Barney Kessel, familiar name, and Shelly Manne on bass. So still is several interesting and familiar names here. They play Angel Eyes, Love Just Around the Corner, You Made Me Love You, Guilty. So this is going to be very, very interesting to listen to. some odd setting also with 4 trombones. I bought this one. I realized when I bought it that I just ship away the entire album with this guy, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll give it a chance. I bought it for 10 cents, so hey, can take a chance for 10 cents. Ken Griffith at the organ. The Cuckoo Walls, You Can't Be True Dear, Scatterbrain, and My Dreams Are Getting Better All the Time. It's organ on single. Not that often I found that. So let's go to CDs. That I have a pretty good stack of CDs today. Starting with saving the jazz for last, so starting with some real 80s soul. Not often I find that on CD. Johnny Gill, a member of New Edition, just like Bobby Brown. Johnny Gill then became just as big as Bobby Brown. On the other hand, he didn't marry Whitney Houston either. But Johnny Gill was really, really great. Nothing against Bobby Brown during his 80s career, but I feel like Johnny Gill was even better. Maybe because he had Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis in his back. But this is actually a singles compilation, or a compilation of greatest hits. I have albums with Johnny Gill since before. It's good to have a greatest hits also. I found myself some Erasure. This is an album called Union Street. I have a feeling that I have heard some tracks from this one, and it isn't as synth popish as they usually are, which I guess is the sign of that is on the back where there are animated with Vince Clarke holding a guitar. But it is Erasure, and I want as complete as I can of them, so I had to have it. And I think it is, after all, it's Vince Clarke who has made the melodies, and still Andy Bell is singing, so it isn't all that bad. But I might prefer Erasure in a more original synth pop style. This one was interesting. I found it for $1. This is Daft Punk, their latest album, Random Access Memories, from 2013. Containing then, of course, their big hit Get Lucky. And I haven't been all that much fan of Daft Punk, much because their 90s stuff have been that kind of music that is interesting, experimental and funky for the first minute, but then it sounds like it's a record that has been stuck. It goes in the same, sounds the same the entire 4 minutes thereafter. So I wasn't all that fond of Daft Punk because of that. But when I heard Get Lucky, I was really fascinated. Oh, this was actually perhaps the best Daft Punk has done. And then I heard the other single, Lose Yourself to Dance, which also was good. So this might be the best thing that Daft Punk has ever done, in my opinion. Dance music more, but let's go 10, maybe 20 years back to 1994, and some real genuine Eurodance music. One iconic album, Two Brothers on the Fourth Floor, and their album Dreams, their debut. Still looking for their second album, because I think that that one will be really great. But this one, I have a cassette copy, but I want to have it in an original version of it, and Dreams will come alive. It's such a iconic Eurodance song, so it feels good to have that one. Now, a whole lot of jazz. We have this one is really interesting. This is Joe Jones on drums. I had a Joe Jones with trio on vinyl before, and that one was not all that good, but this contains also Hank Jones on piano, and must be a whole lot better then. And it also Jimmy Oliver on tenor saxophone, Our Man Papa Joe, and it's a Japanese release. My collection of Japanese released records, here, Nippon, Colombia. My collection of Japanese records is growing slowly. This one is going to be very, very interesting. I also have more Duke Ellington that I managed to find. This is from a series called The Private Collection, released on VEA. And it is volume 5 and volume 10. This is volume 5, The Suits New York, and The Suites New York. And it contains something called the Degas Suite. And Duke Ellington, as I really love him, doing suites with a lot of experimental but still sounding so smooth and jazzy. So this one is going to be very, very interesting. Volume 10 is called Studio Sessions, New York, Chicago, 1965, 66 and 70. A lot of songs I never heard of, so might be interesting still. I'm also made an order to the web shop Ginza, and because they have sellout, and I brought home 4 jazz albums. Gil Evans Orchestra, on Giants of Jazz, Italian low-budget label that you never know. Sometimes they're not all that good. Sometimes they are real good. So it's, but sometimes they're releasing stuff that I don't have, that I never heard of. So this one was extremely interesting. I think this is, beside from the records with Miles Davis, this is the first Gil Evans album that I have on his own. And have here a double album set with Bud Powell called Jazz Piano Masters. Some of the more ordinary Bud Powell songs on 2 CDs, but it cost me $1 this double album set, and it's good also to have one artist's more famous stuff also, and there's also some that I never heard of. The Fruit I never heard of. Hallelujah, some Bud Powell tracks here that I never heard of. John Kirby and his sextet, really underrated and forgotten musician today. Some real nice small band swing from the 40s, and really nice. Making some real odd kind of music. Check out his jazz version of The Minute Waltz by Chopin. And this is an artist that I raising my white flag. I was wrong, and I surrender. It was one big band artist that I have been avoiding for all these years, because when I was younger I thought his style was not all that good, and that was Stan Kenton. For all these years I have avoided Stan Kenton, but now also as I've grown older, my taste of big band has become even wider. So I felt like, why not give it a chance? So I checked out some Stan Kenton songs on YouTube, and it sounded actually better than I remembered it. A lot better. So I bought this 2 CD set for $1. Stan Kenton and Opus in Pastels, released on low budget label, of course, XXL, but I give up. Stan Kenton is good, a lot better than I thought through all these years. So all's wells and ends wells. Little portion of vinyls. Here's a trio of records that I found at a special event that they had a little bit outside of the central part of the city called Petersvik. They had some kind of flea market in the area, where special on the street, where some neighbors up the street had their own flea markets in their garages, and one of them sold records, and I bought 3 records from that man, who also normally have records also on the record fairs. I bought Manhattan Transfer. I'm not a fan of the Manhattan Transfer normally, but this Bodies and Souls I have searched for. It is from 1983, containing Spice of Life, and the reason why I searched for this and this Manhattan Transfer album only is because it is more of a soul dance album with 80s soul funk style than their original jazz vocal stuff. This one I have listened to, and it's really highly recommended album if you want to relax, because it's really soft, real great. This is Tommy Flanagan and Red Mitchell duo album called You're Me. It's very much Red Mitchell on bass here. You have Tommy Flanagan playing great, and you have Red Mitchell with a heavy bass playing, and I think this is a great album. Really highly recommended. This one is released on Fantastic. It's a Swedish release. I also bought this. This was a little mistake. Gene Norman presents a Charlie Ventura concert. I remember the Civic Auditorium, Pasadena, California, April 1949, but felt like no, I don't recognize the sleeve. So I felt like no, I may not have it. So I bought it. It only costed me, I think it was $2. Then I got home and realized that it's actually this that I have shown before. Charlie Ventura concert. Gene Norman presents a Charlie Ventura concert. This is released on Choral. And it's the same songs, no special tracks on this one. It's exactly the same. So I have no use for one of them. And even though Decca is a better, more famous, better label, this one is a whole lot better quality. So I say goodbye to this one. Edmundo Ross, Dancing with Edmundo. Real great. Maybe Edmundo Ross' best album, one of them anyway, in my opinion. Because this is early Edmundo Ross, and it is real great stuff. I went to a person who had a flea market in her home. She was going to move to another place, so she sold out all of her stuff. Bought Elton John Sleeping with the Past that I had as a cassette copy when I was younger, thinking that was not my stuff anyway. Singles were good, but the rest. But as my interest for Elton John has been growing since then a whole lot, I felt like I wanted to have this. Healing Hands, great song. Club at the End of the Street, Sacrifice. So I felt like I wanted to have this one. Sleeping with the Past, which I do many times. I bought this one also, Jerry Mulligan Quartet Paris concert. The sleeve doesn't look all that good, but it is a real great live album, with maybe one exception that you can hardly hear what Jerry Mulligan says between the songs, so you don't hear the pronunciation all that well. But it's great live album, definitely. With Jerry Mulligan, Bob Brookmeyer, Red Mitchell, and Frank Isola. And finally, I also bought some album with an artist I had no idea. It was more or less a blind buy. But I checked out on YouTube first with this artist that it sounds very interesting. This is a Japanese multi-instrumentalist called Tomita. Here is he. And I bought 2 albums, Cosmos and Firebird. And the closest thing you can compare him to is Jean-Michel Jarre. Relaxing ambient music like that, but very much it's happening things all the time, and it's real. He's using his fantasy, his imagination when he's composing. He has made here an electronic version of Tchaikovsky's Stravinsky's Firebird ballet. And also Debussy's Prelude to Afternoon of a Faun, and Modest Mussorgsky's Night on the Bare Mountain. So classical music in electronic style, and this here is both own and covers of different kind of songs. So it's very interesting experimental stuff. So, now, June, we're marching into summer, the most exciting period when it comes to record buying, in my opinion. It went a little so-so last summer, but hopefully it will be better this summer, and it started good with the summer flea markets, so let's hope that it keeps on with the good stuff that it has began with. So until next time, I hope that each and every one of you have a real nice time, no matter where you are. No matter what you do, take care and so long.